Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my December mid-month wrap-up. So we are nearly halfway through December. I'm actually filming this on the 14th, so not quite halfway through, but it's a Sunday, so I feel like that's a good day for me to film it rather than saving it to the week to film it. But yeah, I wanted to share with you the books that I've read so far this month, and I'm having a good reading month so far. I have read 18 books in total. A lot of these have been novellas because I am obviously going to be doing a Christmas novellas video, so I'm reading a few for that video. So I will mention those ones, but I won't go into a lot of detail because there will be separate videos coming up where I will give a lot more detail about them. So I'm just going to share my, when it comes to the novellas, I'm just going to share which ones I've read and the rating that I gave them. But if you want to see more kind of what the plot's about, my overall thoughts, then please do subscribe so you can check out my upcoming videos because they, as I say, will be mentioned in there. And yeah, I'm really in the Christmas reading mood. I've read quite a few Christmas books. Obviously, I am still interspersing those with non-Christmas books because I do have some library books that aren't Christmas related that I obviously need to get read. And obviously I have other things as well that I want to focus on as well. But predominantly I am reading mainly Christmas books, and you will see that from my list. So let's start with the first book. So the first book was If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. This is kind of my last autumn book for the season, maybe. I'm sure I might pick up some other things because I do have a lot, but this was kind of like my last official one of the season. And this one featured in my autumn reading vlog, which I will leave linked down below. So if you want to check out more autumn reads or more of my thoughts on this, you can view that video. This one I liked and gave 4 stars to. This one is a small town single dad romance, and I had a good time with this one. This one has been super hyped this season, and I liked this one and I can see why people are talking about it, but I do feel that there are other ones out there that do a similar sort of thing that I've maybe loved a bit more. But this one was an okay read and it is one that I would recommend. So we are following, what were their names? Cliff and... I only recently read this, but I've already forgotten their names. Cliff and Michelle. And at the beginning of the book, Michelle's mother has passed away, and Michelle's mother ran a bed and breakfast in this small town called Copper Run, and the bed and breakfast has been left to Michelle's sister. And Michelle is, at the beginning of the book, married and is actually going to be getting a divorce, but she didn't want to tell her family because of all the things that have been going on with her mother being ill and then passing away. So that it gets announced at her mother's funeral that she is getting a divorce, and then she ends up going to Copper Run to run the bed and breakfast whilst her sister finishes college. And while she's there, she meets Cliff, who is her next door neighbour in Copper Run, and he is a single father to 2 girls. One I think is 16 and the other one is 7 or 8, and it's their romance, and Cliff obviously becomes a big part of her life, trying to help her run the bed and breakfast and kind of be a bit more customer friendly, because she has come from very much like a corporate world, so she's not got that kind of small town friendliness down that you kind of need to run a bed and breakfast. And yeah, this was a cute romance. I did really enjoy it. I liked seeing the romance between Michelle and Cliff develop throughout the book, and I also liked seeing Michelle interact with his 2 children. That is something that I really look for in a single parent romance, is that kind of interaction with the children and having that close relationship. I really love seeing that, and this definitely featured in this book. She grew quite close to both the children, and yeah, I had a good time with this. My one of my complaints about this one is this is very long, and I don't feel that the story needed to be this long to kind of get the point across. So I think it could have been cut down a little bit, and maybe I would have liked it a bit more. But yeah, overall a really solid read, and I'm definitely glad that I picked this one up this season. I definitely think it is one that is really enjoyable. In terms of autumn vibes, I do kind of talk about that in my reading vlog. I've definitely read ones that have more autumn vibes. This one does take place during that time, but I feel like it's not like super heavy on the autumn vibes. It's definitely more heavier on the kind of small town elements, I feel. But yeah, overall a good read and one that I would definitely recommend. Then I listened to The Christmas Express by Isla Gordon, and I gave this one 3 stars. So this one I saw on my library audiobook catalogue when I was kind of scrolling through, and it was available to kind of like instantly check out. There wasn't a queue for it, and so I thought I'd give it a go because I wanted to read some Christmas books, and this one was okay, not my favourite. So this one follows a group of friends who were all at one point really close, but then various different events happened that made them grow apart, and they are all travelling to Canada for one of the group's wedding. They've been invited, even though they've not really been friends, they somehow still get invited to this wedding, and they, instead of kind of like travelling by plane, they end up travelling by the train, and they are, I can't remember how long it's, lasts over like a few days, this train journey from, I can't remember where they start, but they start off I think in America and they travel to Canada, so it's like a really long train journey, and it's kind of them kind of redeveloping their friendship, kind of talking about what went wrong in the past, why they broke, like why the friendship group kind of disbanded and what they've been doing in the meantime. And this one was just okay. I could definitely see this one as a Christmas film, and perhaps as a film it might work a bit more. I felt like because there was quite a few characters, there were 6 people on this train, and then obviously there was the friend whose wedding it was. There was a lot of characters, and I feel because this book was quite short, I didn't feel really connected to any of them, because we would kind of chop and change around from different character to character, kind of talking about their story, and basically the reason that they'd all kind of broken apart was kind of a bit like not really like a very good reason in my opinion. So yeah, it was just okay for me, not necessarily one that I would recommend. I do think there are better ones out there, but this was a cute Christmas read if you're looking for something like that. I would say this is more women's fiction than romance as well, so if that is something that you're looking for, then this would be one to check out. Then we have Tourist Season by Bryn Weaver. This is book 1 in the Seasons of Carnage series, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. Now, Bryn Weaver for me is a very overhyped author, I feel. I didn't really love the whatever the other one, Ruinous Love trilogy, I think it was called, with the Butcher and Blackbird as the first book. I didn't really love that. I thought it was fine, like there wasn't anything terrible about it, but I didn't love it. So I wanted to give this new series a go and see what I thought about it. As I say, I gave it 3.5 stars. I think it was okay, but I'm not sure if Bryn Weaver is an author for me, but I'm interested enough to want to pick up book 2, but we shall see. So this is the start of a new series, as I say. It's set in the town called Cape Carnage, and they definitely kind of lean into that name in terms of they have these kind of strange decorations and festivals that kind of lean into that kind of carnage nature. And we are following Harper and Nolan, and Harper has moved to Cape Carnage. She has some things that have gone on in her past that we kind of slowly learn throughout the book, and she is there protecting the town, and by protecting the town that involves killing people who kind of disrupt that small town life. And she meets Nolan, who is in town because he was involved in a car crash many years ago, and his brother ended up dying as a result of it, and he believes that Harper is the reason for that, so he is in town to kill her, and it is their romance that slowly develops. Now this one of the big things in publishing this year seems to be the inclusion of a parent or parent character having Alzheimer's or dementia, and that even featured in this book. I don't really love seeing this, but it seems to be I don't want to say trend, because I feel like that's not quite the right word for it, but it seems to be very popular to include this in books this year. And Harper is looking after this older gentleman who she kind of views as a father figure, and he in his kind of earlier years was also a serial killer, so they kind of bonded over that, and he is suffering from Alzheimer's. And one of the things that they have to that kind of draw Harper and Nolan together is that a patch of land where this old guy has buried all the people that he's killed has been bought by a property developer, and so they need to move the bodies to kind of cover this guy's tracks, and that's kind of what draws them closer, because each night they go to this place to like dig up the bodies. And yeah, overall this was okay. I feel with Brim Weaver's books, I feel like parts of them are really slow, and then parts of them I'm really interested in. And yeah, I liked the way this one ended. The way this one ended is what kind of wants me to pick up the next book. So one of the kind of side plots in here is that there is another serial killer called La Plume, and everyone assumes that it is this older guy that is this serial killer, and then at the end of this book we get it revealed who it is, and it's not who you were expecting. So that's why I'm drawn into wanting to pick up book 2. So we'll have to see what that one turns up like and whether I continue on with the series past book 2. Then I read The Gingerbread Bakery by Laurie Gilmore. This is book 5 in the Dream Harbour series, and I liked this one and gave this one 4 stars. So this one is a long-awaited book in the series following 2 characters called Annie and Mac. Their relationship has been kind of teased earlier on in the series, and this is a second chance romance between the two of them, and also kind of, I guess, hate to love. I wouldn't say enemies, but like a hate to love situation. So when they were younger, Annie and Mac had this moment, and they had like a little bit of a brief fling, but it was obviously they were teenagers and it was kind of very short-lived. And after that didn't end well. They have had this anonymity between them, where they are quite there's a bit of conflict between them, and they end up obviously rekindling their relationship. This one is centered around previous characters. I can't remember what their names were, but some of the previous characters from one of the previous books, they are getting married in this book, and so it's a Christmas wedding, and Annie is one of the bridesmaids and Mac is one of the groomsmen, and so they get kind of pulled together, and it is their romance. I really like this one. Overall, this series is a good time. I definitely would recommend the audiobooks for the series. That is how I've consumed the whole of this series, and I think that they're really well done. I think this series is a lot of fun, but it's not like a favourite series. I like them well enough that I think most of them, apart from the first one, I've given 4 stars to. The first one was a 3-star read for me. But they don't do anything like super special or super memorable. Like, I have a good time in the moment, but I don't think about them too much further down the line. But I absolutely love the covers, so I definitely will be continuing on with this series. If you're looking for a small town romance series, this is definitely a fun one to dive into. And obviously we're now up to book 5, so if you haven't picked this series up yet, you've got plenty to check out, go back and check out. All of them are seasonal, so we've had like an autumn one, we've had a couple of Christmas ones, we've had a spring one. We're going to be getting a I think it's going to be another spring type one called, does it tell me what it's called? I think it's called the Daisy Chain Flower Shop, which is coming in May of next year, and one of the characters was introduced in this book. I don't know if she's been in previous books, but she was introduced in this book, so I'm definitely intrigued to check out her story when it comes out. So, and the cover again for that one is gorgeous, so definitely recommend checking out this series. Then we have Wrapped Up in You by Talia Hibbert. This one is a novella, so I won't go into too much detail here, but I gave it 2.5 stars, and I listened to that one on audio. Then we have The Fortune Hunter's Guide to Love by Emma Claire Sunday. This one I gave 3.5 3.5 stars to. This one is a sapphic romance and a sapphic historical romance, and I did like this one, but I do think that it was a little bit too quick for me. I feel like I would have preferred a bit more of a slower burn romance. So in this one we are following Sylvia and Hannah, and Sylvia comes from a wealthy family, and the father passes away like before the start of the book. The father has recently passed away and they are basically left with nothing. The new heir to the kind of family fortune doesn't want anything to do with them and kind of disowns them, sort of thing. So they are left with very little money and have to move out of their London home, and they move back to this small town, which is where the mother originally came from, but she married a wealthy man, so moved away. And they have moved back, and as I say, they don't have any money. That it's a very new way of life that they are not used to. They're used to all the like luxuries of living in London. In London they had servants and they had fancy dresses and they went to balls and things like that. But obviously they've moved to this small town where none of that is available to them, and they end up having to get jobs to support the family. And Sylvia ends up getting a job on the farm, on Hannah's family's farm, and she obviously has no experience of working on a farm, but Hannah takes her under her wing and obviously helps her learn about farming life. And the two of them, Sylvia doesn't want to be there. She has made it very clear from the start that she has no intention of staying. What she wants to do is marry a wealthy husband so she can go back to London. And her and Hannah strike up a deal where that Hannah will help her, like, be her chaperone to these events so that Sylvia can secure a wealthy husband. And so in return, Sylvia, once she's secured the wealthy husband, will help buy a shop for Hannah, because Hannah is really into making cheese and she wants to experiment with different flavours in the cheese, and she wants a shop to sell the cheese in. And it obviously ends up being a romance between the two of them. This one is a really sweet romance. It's not very spicy at all. And as I say, they obviously have feelings. Now this, obviously it's a romance, so they do get a happy ever after, and it's obviously not the most historically accurate in terms of everyone was very accepting of their relationship, which I obviously don't think would have been the case at the time. Unfortunately, obviously, you know, if you're looking for historical accuracy, this isn't something that's featured in here. And one of the things that I did find a little bit annoying about this book is they use the term like, I fancy you, and I don't know, like, that felt very modern, and I don't necessarily need my historical romances to have like really historical language, but sometimes when really modern phrases or terms are used in there, it can be a little bit jarring, and I found that a little bit odd. I feel like there would have been a better term to be used, or more like historically accurate term, but it felt a little bit too modern in this historical setting. But overall, I had a good time with this. Emma Claire Sunday has written a couple of sapphic historical romances, so if that is something you're looking for, because we don't see a ton of those, then I would definitely recommend checking her out. Then I read Christmas on Fifth Avenue by Julie Kaplan. This one I really enjoyed and gave 4 stars to. This one we are following Evie and Noah, and Evie at the beginning of the book was subject to a scam. She got scammed out of all of her money, and the scam, basically she got contacted saying that she'd won a prize to travel to New York and stay in the Plaza Hotel, and in order to secure her prize she needed to pay for the flights up front. And so she wanted to go to New York, and so she kind of got caught up in the idea of going and ended up taking some money from her housemates to secure the flights, and then her housemates talk about it on TikTok and she ends up going viral. And because of that, because she went viral for the scam, the Plaza Hotel saw the TikTok video, and then as a PR stunt invite her to go to the hotel and share posts on social media for them. And she obviously agrees to go. Now her mother has recently passed away, and it was always her mother and her dream to go to New York, so that's why she got scammed, because she wasn't really thinking with the kind of grief of losing her mother. She was like, oh, now I can like live our dream that we had, and that's why she got scammed. So she obviously is going to New York, and while she's traveling there she meets Noah, who is a football player who has recently been banned from playing because of a tackle gone wrong, and he is very grumpy and is not too impressed by Evie when they first meet. Evie is very bubbly and over the top, and he is like the opposite, and they end up spending time together in New York. And when they are seen interacting in the hotel, it goes on social media and everyone goes kind of wild for them, and the posts like increase in engagement, and so there is this idea for them to fake date to kind of boost the post for the plaza, and it goes from there. I had a good time with this one. I will say the third act conflict was a little bit frustrating, and I could see it coming a mile away, and then the overall resolution was okay, but I feel not 100% satisfied, so that's why I only gave it 4 stars. But it is definitely a fun Christmas read. Could definitely see this one as a film as well, which is kind of I love the Christmas films. I haven't actually watched too many yet this year, but yeah, really would recommend this if you are looking for a Christmas romance. Then I read A Very Merry Christmas by Debbie Macomber. This one I also had a really good time reading, and I gave this one 4 stars. This one is more of a women's fiction than a romance, and we are following a bunch of different characters who are traveling on this ferry to get to Seattle over the Christmas period, and the ferry ends up breaking down, so they end up getting trapped on this ferry for hours and hours. And as I say, we are following lots of different characters. They're all having their own story and reasons for why they are traveling, and we obviously get to see those stories kind of unravel. And yeah, I had a good time with this one. I do talk about this one and some of these other Christmas books in a upcoming reading vlog, so I would recommend checking that out once it's available. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for a more women's fiction story. As I say, this one has like a little bit of romance in it, but that's not the main focus of the story. Then I had read Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, and I did not like this one and gave this one 2 stars. This book got lent to me by someone at work, and so I felt obligated to read it. It wasn't necessarily one that I was planning to pick up, and normally if I'd been reading it for myself I would have DNF'd it, but because it was lent to me I felt like I had to finish reading it. But yeah, I didn't enjoy this one. This one is about a character, I can't even remember her name, Lucy, who has been accused of murdering her friend like years ago, and she conveniently doesn't have any memories of the night, which makes her even more suspicious, and everyone assumes that she did it, but because there was no evidence she couldn't get convicted. And now we're, I can't remember how many years later it is, but now we're in present day, and there is a guy who is doing a podcast, like one of those true crime podcasts, where he is like discussing the murder, and he interviews people and he wants to kind of get to the bottom of what happened. Premise-wise, the premise sounds really interesting, but execution, I just really wasn't interested in this. I was reading it and I didn't feel engaged with the story at all, and I didn't feel that the ending or conclusion of this was very satisfying, and yeah, I just wouldn't recommend this one. I know this book has got really positive reviews, like the rating on Goodreads was a 4 point something average rating, and when I was reading the reviews I was like, did we read the same book? Because I really didn't enjoy this one, but so many other people did, so you might want to check this one out. Maybe I'm the odd one out with not enjoying this one, but yeah, this one really didn't work for me. Then I listened to Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn, and this one is historical fiction, and I don't read a ton of historical fiction, but I did really enjoy this one, and I've read from Kate Quinn before and I do really enjoy her writing. This one we follow Mila, who is a Russian sniper during World War II, and at the beginning of the book we see her, and she is very young when the book starts. I can't remember exactly how old she is, but she is very young, and she gets seduced by this older doctor who she ends up having a child with, and they get married because that is kind of what's expected of them, but he doesn't really want anything to do with the child, or really her, to be honest, once she starts getting older, and they are separated. Now obviously that causes some conflict at the time because separation and divorce are like negatively viewed, and we kind of see her kind of living her life originally at the start of the book before kind of the war starts, and then the war starts and she goes away and signs up to be part of the war, and she becomes a sniper, and she is known as Lady Death, and she's killed like a load of people, and throughout the book there's a tally of how many people she has killed. And so we see kind of two timelines of this book. We see her at the front line, obviously initially training and then fighting in the front line, and getting, you know, injured throughout the book as well, and lots of things involved there. Also she falls in love, and that has a we kind of see that story play out. And also then we are like, I think it's kind of a few months later, where she is in the US visiting the president and his wife, and basically a few people have been selected from the Russian army to go to the US to kind of meet with the president and kind of persuade him to for the US to join the war and join their side and fight against Germany during the war. And there is a subplot going on there where someone is there to assassinate the president, and they think that obviously having a Russian sniper there, that they'll be able to kind of pin it on her. And so there's kind of multiple stories going on at the same time. This one was really good. I found this really interesting. This is also very much, even though it is historical fiction, and obviously the author will have taken, you know, liberties with some things, this the character, it was actually a real person, and there is some elements of truth to the story. Obviously, you know, as I say, some of it has been fictionalized by the author, obviously for the purposes of the story she wanted to tell, but Mila was a real person and was a sniper during the war, and I found this one really interesting. I really enjoyed the audiobook. I don't know whether if I'd read it physically I would have enjoyed it as much, because it is quite a long book, and sometimes historical fiction, when you're reading them physically, sometimes it can feel a little bit drawn out, but when you're listening to it, it didn't feel like that. So overall I had a really good time with this one, and I would definitely recommend it if you like historical fiction. Then we have a bunch of novellas. So I'm not going to talk about them too much here. I'll just give you, as I say, the rating. So we've got No Place Like Home by Laura Pavlov. This is book 1 in the Home Sweet Holiday series. I gave this one 4 stars. Merry and Bright, which is book 2 by Ali Rosen. I gave 4 stars. All Wrapped Up in You by Rosie Dannon, which is book 3. I gave 3 stars. And You Better Not Pout by Mia Sosa, which is book 4. I gave 2 stars too. I will be doing a separate video about this series, reviewing it in full, giving you my full thoughts, so please do subscribe to my channel to check that out. Then we have The Holiday Hookup List by Alexis Daria. I gave this one 3 stars, and that will be a novella that will feature in an upcoming video. Then we have Next Time Will Be Our Turn by Jessie Citano, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. This one I have like conflicted feelings about. This one is very different to Jessie Citano's previous books. I have read quite a few of her books now, and this one, as I say, is very different. She wrote the Dial A for Auntie series, she's written the Vera Wong series, and she's also written some mystery thrillers as well. And this one is, I don't even know where to put it as. I guess it's like a fiction book. There is like a romantic subplot in here, but this is definitely not a romance. And this one was really interesting, and I had a good time with it, but it wasn't quite what I was expecting. So I feel like my expectations kind of were different to what I thought this book was going to be. I also really dislike the UK cover. The US cover is so much nicer. I'll put on screen what the US cover looks like, but the UK one is so bland in comparison. But this story we are following, there's 2 time periods. So we have, what's her name, Lucy? Oh, Izzy, sorry. Izzy and Magnolia. And Magnolia is Izzy's grandmother. And at the beginning of the book, Izzy is talking about how there's this expectation of her, like, to be married and have children and all of that, and she is at a big family function and her grandmother walks in with another woman, and that is kind of the catalyst for the story. It causes a big scandal. The book is set in Indonesia, so her family have very traditional views, so her grandmother walking in with a woman is definitely not what is expected. And then we kind of go back in time, and Magnolia, who is Izzy's grandmother, starts telling her story to Izzy. So this book is told, as I say, mainly in the past, where Magnolia is kind of recounting her life basically and her experiences. And she got sent over to America from Indonesia when she was 16 to go to college, and when she arrives in LA, she goes to, her sister is already over there. Her sister is called Iris, and she's like a few years older, so she's already been out in America for a couple of years by the time Magnolia gets over there. And her sister is, I would say, definitely like a moody teenager. She is definitely rebellious against the traditional views that her Indonesian parents have, whereas Magnolia is a bit more wanting to please and wanting to do what her parents say. And when she first gets to LA, she meets this girl called Ellery, she definitely has a connection to, and they do have a friendship, but she definitely has feelings that she wasn't expecting, because she has always thought of herself as being straight. And then when she meets Ellery and has these feelings, she doesn't quite know what to do with them, because she is obviously still very young, and also it wouldn't be something that would be accepted by her parents. And we kind of see the story progress through her college years, and her and Ellery build this friendship, and then they get to the end of college and Ellery decides that she's going to England to study, but hasn't told Magnolia, so they fall out and don't see each other again for a long time. And we get to see also some letters that Magnolia wrote to Ellery. Although she never sent them, throughout the years she writes these letters kind of updating her on what's happened during her life, and her feelings for her that she obviously never got to express. And Magnolia ends up getting married to this guy called Parker, who is definitely everything that her parents wanted for her. And her and Ellery do eventually meet again, and there are some things that happen, and this story doesn't go the way that you think it is going to go. I thought that this was a romance. I don't really know why I thought it was a romance, but I did for some reason think that it was going to be a romance. This is definitely not a romance. I don't want to spoil what happens, but I am telling you it's not a romance, so read into that what you will. But yeah, the ending of this one was very unexpected, and because, as I say, I thought it was a romance, I definitely thought it was going to go one way rather than the way that it did. And there are some heartbreaking moments in here. I feel like this is definitely a much more emotional read in comparison to Jessie Satano's other books. One thing I really liked about Jessie Satano's books in the past that I've read from her, apart from her thrillers, or even then some of them do have kind of some lighter moments, is she is pretty good with humour in her books. Like the Vera Wong series, I have such a fun time reading those, and they are really funny to me. This one, there isn't really any funny moments in here. I think it's all quite serious and a little bit sad at times. One thing I will say is when Magnolia was recounting her story, some of her moments that she talked about in the past, she did read a lot younger than 16, and then obviously when she was getting older, she did read quite young at times, which was a little bit distracting. But overall I liked this one, but it wasn't what I was expecting. So I would say if you are looking to pick up this book, go into it knowing that it's not a romance, because I didn't, and I think maybe that could be why I didn't rate it as highly. And also, as I say, it is very different to what I'm used to from this author. Not that that's a bad thing, but obviously when you go in expecting one thing and get a different thing, it can obviously have an impact on your rating. So I would recommend this one, but do go into it with caution. As I say, there are some very sad moments in there. Then we have 2 more novellas, so I'll just give you the ratings for those. So I read Captured by Krampus by Megan Linsky, and I gave this one 2.5 stars. And then last one was Mischief and Mistletoe by Tanya Ann Crosby, which is book 4.5 in the Redeemable Rogues series. You don't necessarily need to have read the other books in the series to get into this one. This one is just a short novella. I gave this one 3 stars. And as I say, I will be giving my full thoughts in my novellas video. So they are all of the books that I have read so far in December. I'm having a really good reading month. I'm happy with what I've read so far. I've ticked a few things off of my own TBR, which is always a nice feeling, and I'm enjoying reading some Christmas books. Let me know what you've liked reading so far in December, and I will see you in my next video.